I'm Bryna Blum, your worship associate for today. Delighted to be working side by side with my friend, Harriet Rossetto. I will have more about both Harriet and friend later. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. As we begin, we acknowledge that we are on the historic homelands of the various bands of Cahuilla people, and we honor the unique relationship that we hope emerges between our community and the indigenous people and their traditional territories. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Cahuilla people whose lands and water we benefit from today. In this congregation, we also acknowledge that we welcome people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, of all ages and sizes, people of all economic statuses and professions, of all physical and mental abilities, people of all races and ancestries and cultures. We welcome you wherever you come from, whoever you love, whatever your immigration status or civic engagement. We welcome all those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world and to build a community centered in justice, compassion, and love. You are all welcome here. We are glad you're with us this morning, both here in the sanctuary and at home. We'd like to take a moment now to greet newcomers and visitors. If you're here for the first time and are comfortable, you're invited to stand or raise your hand, and our usher, the Honorable Reverend Ian Riddell, will come to you with a microphone. Right now, please share just your name and where you're from, and after the service, we can get to know you better at coffee hour.
My name is Elaine Rubin, and I live in Sun City, and I'm a friend of Harriet's.
Good morning. We are Denise and Chuck Stevens, and we live in Indio in Sun City, Shadow Hills. And this is our first time here, but we're here because we went to the Unitarian meeting house that Frank Lloyd Wright designed in Madison, Wisconsin, and we were so overcome that we had to come today.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Robert Little. This is my first time here, and I live in Palm Springs.
We're Julie and Ed Winston, and we belong to DOS, and we're delighted to be here today.
Good morning. We're Dennis and Trudy Licht. We live in Rancho Mirage, and we're also with DOS.
I'm Trudy Licht, and I just want to remind you that we're here because we adore Bryna Blum.
Welcome.
Oh, very welcome. We're really glad you're here with us today. If you'd like to be on our email list to learn more about us and our programming, please contact us at admin, that's ADMIN, at uucod.org. Now, before we ring the Tibetan bowl, I'd like to set the tone for today's service by telling you this about my friend, Harriet. A mystical moment guided her to her rightful work as the Jewish jail lady. She visited men and women in custody. She found both her mission and her man. She loved her work, and she loved working with her man. My question for the day is this: what can you tell me about a friend of yours?
but also how the vested interests of the ego penetrate not only moral motivations, but also acts of cognition. Today, you're going to hear from one of the smartest people, most brilliant, wise, spiritual people I know, my wife. Is that good, honey? And while we'll never get to certainty and we'll never get totally disentangled from the vested interests of our ego and from our instinctual desires, you'll learn today ways to lessen them, to temper them, and actually to transform them into working for the sake of heaven, the sake of spirit, the sake of doing the next right thing.
And we're going to sing together now. We're going to sing Hine Matov, which is number 392 in your hardcover hymnal, but the words are up on the screen. Would you say after me, Hine Matov, Uma Naim, Shevet Achim, Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Uma Naim, Shevet Achim, Gam Yachad. Malcolm, could we have the starting note, please? So I'm going to sing a line to you. I want you to sing it back to me, okay? Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Sing that. Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam ya. And again. Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Now the second part is the same words, different melody. It goes like this. Hine matov shevet achi gam yachad. Matov shevet achi gam ya. And again. Hine matov shevet achi gam yachad. Now we're going to put those two things together. So I'm going to invite this side of the room to sing the Hine matov umanai. And you're just going to sing that part over and over again. And this side, we're going to add the other higher part on top, okay? Yep. So, but we're going to let us start, and then you can join us, okay? Yep. And if at any point you feel uncomfortable, well, no. If at any point you're not quite sure or the one part you're singing doesn't really fit, you can switch to the other. But for now, we're going to try it this way. So ready, here we go. Hine and Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achi gam yachad. Hine matov gam yachad. Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achi. Everybody on the first part. Hine matov umanai shevet achi gam yachad. Thank you.
on, hold on. Moved. Now, if you'll join with me for our chalice lighting and unison aspiration. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. Dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now if Rabbi Mark will come up and light the Biapak candles. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and the people of color as we journey towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. Thank you. I don't know if all of you know this, but today is National Friendship Day. And since it's National Friendship Day, I thought I'd ponder aloud for you, for just a few minutes, the question: what exactly is a friend? What is the exact definition? What is your definition? Is it someone you've had in your life for a lifetime? Or someone you've recently met with whom you share common interests? Or is it one of the people whose likes, loves, and replies to your Facebook page every day with an emoji? We all get a lot of those. In times past, it was defined as one attached to another by regards to personal regard and preference. Today, it's a digital connection to thousands and thousands of pixels. I think it's really hard to equate shared jokes and recipes on TikTok or Instagram with the quiet help of longtime friends when support is needed. When a group of people were asked to define what the word friend means to them, the answers ranged from: a friend is someone who parachutes into your life to take care of you when you're sick and alone. A friend is someone who is witness to your life and just listens without offering advice. Or a friend is someone you haven't seen in a long time, yet the conversation resumes from where you left off when you finally get together without even missing a beat. Winston Churchill defined friendship as God's apologies for family relations. And the actress Audrey Hepburn said, "Friends are families you get to select for yourself." I get back to how I started this reflection. What exactly is your definition of a friend? I'd love to know. And now, if the ushers will come forward. In advance, we appreciate your generosity for the good work of this congregation. Generosity. This is the time for joys and sorrows, those thoughts that we keep inside and those that we feel comfortable enough to share. This is a joy, as written by the incredible Michael Allen. As the sun rises, all that is wondrous and beautiful is before me, and I am filled with the childlike splendor of the day. To the community I say, do not lose that child like wonder. It brings happiness. Big hearts to all. Michael. Another joy is that Carol McDaniel and her new knee are now out and about. And I thank you all, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, for bringing meals to her last week when she needed them. Get well wishes to all that need them. Happy birthday to our wonderful, amazing Barb Kate. And there's something here in the book that I cannot begin to read, so I apologize in advance. Let us all sit quietly, please. I imagine we all get a bit introspective when we listen to the joys, and especially the sorrows written in the book. For this reason, let's stop. Let's put our hands in our laps, palms up, close your eyes. Now just drop your head for a minute and make a half moon from left to right, from left to right. And with your eyes still closed, pick up your head, move your head left, move your head right, and then back to center. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. Then in and out. And open your eyes. We all need to do that a couple of times during the day just to let things go. Now, if you will join with me for our hymns for meditation and Fuente de Amor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today because of friendship, because I met Bryna, and we've become friends, and she's invited me, and I have new friends. And thank you, Elaine, for coming. Bryna said that I found my mission some almost 40 years ago. And it took a long time. My mother told me I was a missionary child, and I looked for many years, and I couldn't find it. And I didn't believe in anything. I was a third-generation atheist. And I had this mystical moment where I went to a science of mind practitioner, and she prayed that I would find my rightful work, for which I had been searching for very many years. And she told me to pay attention. And I was unemployed, and that weekend I looked in the paper and there was this little ad and it said, person of Jewish background and culture to work with Jewish criminal offenders. And it was like, oh my God, you know, there really are miracles. I didn't know there were Jewish offenders. I thought all Jews were doctors and lawyers and accountants. I always liked outlaws, and here was a job for me working with Jewish criminal offenders, Master of Social Work required. And I had found it. And I started going to the jails and prisons, and I found people just like me and just like you, not criminals. These were good people, and they did terrible things. And they meant well, but their actions were often reprehensible. And I began to see that they were like split down the middle. They had good intentions and terrible actions, and they couldn't put them together. It was as if they lacked a spiritual corpus callosum uniting the parts of themselves. And I saw myself in them. Not as extreme, perhaps. I had always been able to pass as normal, but I knew that I had that split. And in the course of working with these people and founding a place called Beit Tshuva, where they came when they got out of jail to get out of the revolving door of recidivism, I saw miraculous transformations happen through people working a program of recovery, through working a spiritual program. They found wholeness. They were able to integrate themselves and find the wholeness that we are meant to be. And I looked around and I thought, what is this recovery? What are we recovering? What are they recovering in recovery? And the answer that I found was what Thomas Merton has called the self that wants us to be who we were born to be. The self that wants us to be who we were born to be. Our hidden wholeness. And it was exemplified to me in the story of Reb Zusia, who was a Hasidic tzaddik in the 1700s. And he was on his deathbed, and his disciples were gathered around, and he was crying. And they said, Rebbe, why are you crying? You've been such a good man. When you get to heaven, you know, they're going to know that. And he said, I'm crying because I'm worried when I get to heaven. I'm not worried that they'll say, why were you not like Moses, and why were you not like Abraham? I'm worried that they'll say, why were you not like Zusia? Why were you not yourself? And that story exemplified for me what gets lost and what we need to recover in recovery. And how do we lose our true self? Where does it go? And how do we become what Thomas Merton refers to as self-impersonators, people who are impersonating their true self? And I think that that happens because being human is very difficult. We are complex creatures. Merton also said being human is more difficult than being holy. And why? And I'm going to tell you 4 things that I think are part of the human condition, part of our unique challenge that causes us to lose our inner wholeness, the self that we were born to be. The human is born dependent. It is the only creature where the infant cannot get to the source of food on its own. It has to be taken there. So survival depends on others, and also the capacity to thrive. They did an experiment, I think, in Romania back in the 1900s where they fed kids from wire monkeys with no human response, and many of them died or didn't thrive. So we are born needing other people for our survival. And at around age 2, which we have labeled the terrible twos, the other opposing desire for autonomy kicks in. Okay? Hey, I'm a me. I'm a self. Okay, I might need you to take care of me, but I need to be who I am. And I think that that duality throughout life between needing other people for our survival and for our well-being and our assertion of self and individuality often are in conflict with one another. And if we don't resolve that conflict, we are what's called codependent. Okay? I need you and your feelings about me determine how I feel about me, and we become hooked on the approval and attention of other people. Anybody here for whom that ever happened? Yeah. So that's a lifelong interplay. Do I have to give up me to be loved by you? And that's a human struggle. The second human difficulty is we are aware of our own mortality. No other creature is aware that it's going to die. So what does that do? Ernest Becker, in his brilliant book, The Denial of Death, suggests that the terror of that mortality goes into the unconscious, causing us to seek power and prestige as if that would protect us from death, and that a lot of the structures that we create, that the ladder of success, gives us an illusion that we are protected. I think we could become addicted to perfection also as a protection against our mortality. And we get hooked on metrics and science and evidence-based solutions, and we look for one way. We look for certainty all the time, and it's an illusion. There is no certainty. And I think if we learned anything from the pandemic, we learned that certainty is an illusion. You know? One day it's gone. The third challenge of being a human being is the paradox of our nature. We're a dual creature. We are a split creature. We are part animal and we are part divine. We have animal instincts and urges and divine yearnings. My interpretation of the Garden of Eden was that it was the garden of wholeness. And when Adam defied God and ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we split. And we discovered that we had free will. He had to be forbidden because that was how you discover that you have free will. So if you are a dual creature with a higher self and a lower self, with a shadow self and a light self, and you have free will, you are obligated to choose your actions so that you may have an urge to be in your animal immediate gratification, pleasure-seeking self, and you want to do the next right thing. The bridge between those opposing inclinations is action. The Jewish tradition, I think, brilliantly has defined those opposing inclinations. It's the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara, the good inclination and the evil inclination, or animal inclination. And it further paradoxically states that the good inclination is good and the evil inclination is very good. Really? What does that mean? That means that the power resides often in the dark part of us. Jung said, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow, and our challenge as human beings is to harness the power of the shadow and transform it into right action. Not to try to erase it or deny it or disown it or project it onto other people, which is a maladaptive way of dealing with that duality. I struggled with that duality for very many years. I had a Marjorie Morningstar. Anybody remember that book, my age, yeah? And I had a Shirley Morgenstern. And Shirley Morgenstern was the nice Jewish girl who married the nice Jewish boy and lived a suburban life. And Marjorie Morningstar was the sort of bohemian hippie. And I had both of them inside of me. I had one that wanted to save the world, and I had one that wanted to stay in bed and eat bonbons and say, you know, screw it, why bother, nothing matters. And I had what I fancied was an intellectual, but I was sort of hooked on chick lit and true crime. And I had all of these opposing forces going on in me. And I kept saying, which is the real me? I want to know which is the real me. And I want to get rid of that other one, because it was one I liked, and there was one I didn't like so much. And at some point or another, I figured it out that they were both the real me, and that the challenge of being a human being is to switch from the either-or paradigm, the binary thinking, black and white thinking of our culture, to switch from either-or to both and. We are both and. You are, I am, we all are. We are a composite of the light and the dark. And we have to own all of that. So to recover is to stop comparing yourself to others, to be who you are, to introduce your altruism to your egotism, your generosity to your greed, your joy to your grief, your courage to your cowardice, your treachery to your trustworthiness, and all the other opposites that you can think of, to accept that you are all of them, and that to be broken is an integral part of being a human being. So, how I deal with being myself and not sacrificing that to please others is, in the words of Rabbi Hillel, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, then what am I? And there's a Jewish teaching, I don't know the source, I don't have to know. He's the rabbi, I'm only the Rebbitzin. But long before the codependency queen, Ann Wilson Schaaf, identified something called codependence, I found this teaching. If I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, then I am I and you are you. But if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you. Isn't that brilliant? Thousands of years ago, and they didn't call it codependency then. So we have to accept that there is no certainty. We have to be able to live in uncertainty. And I think to substitute looking for effectiveness to cultivating a sense of faithfulness, that we are okay the way we are. And that maintenance of what is good is the only certainty. Some years ago, I wrote a book called Sacred Housekeeping when I figured out that making your bed was really important. And before Admiral McRaven came out with his Make Your Bed, I came up with that Make Your Bed as a statement that what you do matters, that nothing is small, that once you are willing to honor the small things, it becomes more possible to honor the big things. So, what I want to leave you with, I don't do final words now. I'll do that later. Later. Bryna has the whole thing together. Accept who you are. There is only one of you. Be the person you were sent to be. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. There is no one better and no one worse. Live in the both and, not the either or, for yourself and other people. Accept uncertainty. Give up the illusion of perfection and control. And know that the defining characteristic of being a human being is to have free moral choice. Every day, it's important to choose life. Thank you. Huh? Oh, we could. Oh, I didn't use all the time? I can go on. Q&A?
Does anybody have any questions or comments, Harriet? This is your time. Your time. Back of the room. Magic, stand up.
How long? Yes, how long? About 40 years. Yeah, I'm old. Yes, sir.
I've always felt, we talked about friends earlier. To me, there are three rings of friends. The outer one is very peripheral friends. Once in a while, and it's very meaning. The middle circle is a bit more meaningful, still not dependent on those. Very closest friends, I've always felt real lucky individual. I had to call in the morning that I needed them. I don't believe that most people do that.
Yeah, they call that outer circle, some of what I read, companions, not friends, people with whom you are connected around an activity. The activity is what brings you together, not the person. Anybody want to share their inner struggles, their either ors that they are trying to make both ands? Yes, sir. In the back. Yeah, you see, the things we call addictions, and we all have them, they come to fill the hole in the soul that is created when we don't put together our disparate parts. When we're split, there's a void in the middle. When we, for instance, perfect or curate our appearances in order to hide the parts of ourselves that are our shadow that we don't like, there's a gap between our self-image and our self. And though that hole in the soul is what people fill with addictive compulsive behaviors. And the journey is from whole in the soul to a whole soul, to acceptance of all of us. That's the journey. And you never get there. That's the other thing I think that's important, that in our quest for certainty, we want a point of arrival. We want to get there. There is no there. You never get there. You're always on the journey. And that's difficult. People want a point of arrival. Okay, am I done? Have I fixed it? Am I okay now? Nah. Ain't happening. Yes. See, and that's synchronicity, you know? That's the miracle, really. And the Native American version of that is about the two wolves. I have a dark wolf and a light wolf. Which one do I feed? And the follow-up was, I need to feed them both. Because if I don't accept my shadow, what I don't own owns me. If I try to push it aside and not feed that part of me in healthy ways, then it will attack me. So I need to feed all the parts of myself in order to be whole. And that doesn't mean acting out your worst fantasies and instincts. That means accepting that you have them and learning to transform them by serving right, by serving God, by serving the good, by right action. That's how we temper the shadow.
You can tell I know how to make friends. the right friends. And as to Harriet saying she's old, she beats me to yoga most mornings. So that disproves that. Please join with me. Oh, please. Excuse me.
We're going to sing a little bit about friendship. So I'd invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together, Lean on Me. Sometimes in my lives, we all have friends, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if you have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you don't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, neighbor, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
No one brings out the music in us like Reverend Ian. Now, if you'll join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I've chosen 2 teachings as my final words. One is from Thomas Merton, and the other from Rumi, the Persian poet. I'll read the Thomas Merton first. I stand among you as one who offers a small message of hope. There are always people who dare to seek on the margin of society, who are not defined by social acceptance or dependent on social routine, who prefer a kind of free-floating existence under a stated risk. And among these people, if they are faithful to their own calling, to their own vocation, to their own message from God, communication on the deepest level is possible. The deepest level is communion, which is wordless, beyond speech and context. And I think that what I hope for today is that we find communion among one another. And the other is Rumi. Rumi was a 13th century Persian poet, and this is called The Guest House. If it were written today, it would probably be called the Verbo or the Airbnb. Being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. And be grateful for whomever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Amen.
speaker. Pleasure listening to you. It really is. I have two questions for you.